In this video, we're going to create the door using the template on the left and the wood pattern on the right, and the result should be something like this. We'll use the template as a reference for each panel that will be made. We'll put in the vertical pieces and then the horizontal pieces, both the frame and the door, and in the horizontal pieces we'll cut 45-degree angles. I'll start by making the door frame first. Hitting M on the keyboard to get my rectangle marquee, I'll make a sample selection of the wood texture that I've created on the right, and I'll copy and paste it into the template. I'm going to drop the opacity to about 60% so I can see the template. And now I'll scale this to be proportional to the panel on the right for the door frame itself. I'll bring the opacity back to 100%. I'm going to put an inner glow on this to make the wood seem a little bit aged. In the layer window, I'll go down to FX and I'll choose Inner Glow. I've used a brown that I've picked with the eyedropper tool using the color picker in the layer styles. And with that darkest color, I've made some adjustments to deepen it even more. I'm using Multiply as the blend mode. I've made the choke 14 and the size 8. These numbers are subjective. I'll return to the wood pattern and I'll make a different selection so it doesn't look too repetitive. I'll copy that piece and I'll paste it, and I'll hit V on the keyboard, drop the opacity to about 60, and I'll scale that to fit as well. Now I want the same patina, so I'll right click on the layer with the inner glow effect and choose Copy, Layer Style, and I'll apply it to the piece on the left. Now I'm going to create the horizontal top of the door frame. Returning to my wood texture, I'll get my marquee, select a different piece, and I'll copy and paste that. I'll rotate it 90 degrees clockwise, and I'll begin to scale it and put it into position. I'll drop the opacity so I can see through it a bit to 60% again, and then I'll continue to scale, following the proportions and size of the template below. And I'll paste the inner glow on that as well. Now, to get the 45-degree angles that we need, I'll first begin by adding a layer mask to the horizontal top of the door frame. I'll hit L on the keyboard to get the lasso tool. I'll create these 45-degree angles, and then with my brush I'll hide that, and I'll do the same on the other side. And our result should be something like this. We'll be using this configuration for the door as well. We'll create the vertical pieces first on either side, then with the horizontal pieces we'll cut the 45-degree angles, and it'll be a repetition of the door frame. We'll begin by merging the layers that comprise the door frame into one. I'll shift select, and in the upper right hand corner of the layer window I'll choose Merge Layers. If you prefer the keyboard quick, it would be Control or Command E. And I'll name it Door Frame, and I'll turn the door frame layer off. Returning to my wood texture, I'll begin, as I did with the frame, creating a rectangle marquee selection in the texture and copy and pasting it into the template. Dropping the opacity to about 60 and Command T, and I'll scale that to fit the vertical piece of the door itself on the right, and I'll return the opacity to 100%, and I'll copy and paste the layer styles to that as well. Going to my wood texture, making a new selection, and copying and pasting that into the template. Dropping the opacity and scaling it to fit. Pasting the layer style. I'm going to create the horizontal pieces. If I turn off the wood for a moment, I'll need 1, 2, 3, and 4 pieces. And I'm going to create each one, and then I'll put the 45-degree angles on afterwards. Going to my wood texture, making a selection, and copying and pasting, and transforming and rotating 90 degrees clockwise. I'll drop to 60%, and I'll scale, starting with the one at the very top. And I'll put my inner glow on. Like the door frame, I'll put a layer mask on that layer. Hitting L on the keyboard, I'll create the 45-degree angle. And with my brush, I'll edit. And I'll do the same on the other side. We should have something like this. I'm going to go in now and create the 3 other pieces very much the same way. And then when we return, we'll assemble the door. With the door frame completed, all I need to do is fill in the panel down at the very bottom. The top opening will be for a glass window. Going to my wood texture, I'll copy and paste the whole thing, placing it under the very first layer for the door. I'll hit Command T to scale it. I'll scale it to fit just a little bit larger than the opening itself. And I'm going to put the inner glow on this as well. And if I needed to, I could go and enhance the effect of the inner glow for that panel so that there's a little bit more depth inside. We should have something like this. With the wooden part of the door complete, we'll merge the layers that comprise it. I'll Shift Select and hit Command or Control E, or go to the upper right hand corner of the layer window and choose Merge Layers. Now I'll turn on the door frame. Now I'm going to put the bevel and emboss on the door frame and put it above the layer with the door itself so that it gives it even more depth. I'll first start by moving the door frame above the door, and then I'll double click and put bevel and emboss on. And this is subjective as far as the adjustment for this go, but you'll see pretty readily how you can give that a much thicker kind of effect and add some depth between the door and the door frame itself. Once I've adjusted the way I want, I'm going to put the inner glow on the door frame as well. Going to my layer styles, I'll click on outer glow and I'll choose the same dark brown that I would have chosen for the inner glow. We're also getting the glow on the outside of the door frame, and we'll deal with that once we've adjusted the inside the way we'd like it. I'll click OK. If I were to right click and hold my mouse down on the word outer glow, third term from the bottom is create layers. You'll see that it separates out all those components. Now I'm selecting the generated layer named door frame outer glow, and then I'm going to use my marquee tool and I'll select with the marquee tool just inside the door frame itself. Going to select inverse and hitting delete. I now have the crisp edge around the door frame that I want. I'll clean up the bottom using my marquee tool. One last element I want to put on the door is the opening where the glass would go. I want a very thin edge, the way the template shows it, on the top panel only. We won't worry about the one we see down here. With the door layer selected, I'll hit M for marquee, and I'll go in and make a selection just on the inside of the opening all the way around. And I'll hit Command J or Edit Copy, Edit Paste to put that selection on its own layer. I'll start by putting the inner glow on, and I'll reduce the thickness and the choke and the size so that I still see some of the wood on the actual selection itself. Now we have the door and the frame completed.